Hello, everyone, and welcome to our regulatory update meeting for August 2026. Today, we will present a regulatory update regarding the regulatory framework for medical devices and IVD in 6 countries. As you can see, China, Philippines, Thailand, Russia, UK, and USA. Let's start with our first country. So in China, we reviewed 3 different updates. The first one related to updates, it's an update across multiple guidelines. The second one is latest UDI announcement. And the third one, proposed advertising review rules revision. So here in the first update, there were 12 registration review guidelines that were issued by the authority during this year. They were published in 4 main batches. The first was the revised 2026 guideline for sodium hyaluronate aesthetic fillers on the 6th of February of this year. The CT tube reliability guideline followed on the 28th of February. And then 5 active device guidelines were published together on the 13th of April, followed by other 5 clinical evaluation or clinical trial guidelines on April 30 of this year. So here I will present a more detailed analysis for just one of these guidelines, so you can just get an idea of the level of details and regulatory requirements included in them. And then I invite you to review the other guidelines depending on your scope of interest, of course. So let's start with the first one, is the guideline for hyaluronic injectable filler. The first important point is regarding products grouping. So products here with different composition, hyaluronic acid concentration or sources, cross-linking methods or degree, or particle size distribution may need to be treated as separate registration units. The second area is product characterization. The dossier should provide detailed information on the cross-linking agent, molecular weight of the hyaluronic acid, degree of cross-linking, and degradation profile. So it is not enough to provide only the final hyaluronic acid concentration. The third area is the performance testing. The evidence package should characterize properties such as rheology, extraction force, particle characteristic, and the overall formulation. So these parameters help demonstrate how the filler behaves during injection and after the administration. The guideline also links product characteristic with clinical use. So if the manufacturer proposes a specific dose, treatment frequency, or repeat treatment interval, these claims should be supported by appropriate evidence, including consideration of the product degradation behavior. And finally, stability evidence should not cover only the filler itself. Shelf life justification should also consider compatibility between the product and its packaging, as well as stability during transportation. So this was for the first update regarding this different guideline. In the second update in China, it's about publication of or an announcement that was published by the authority on March of this year concerning the further implementation of the UDI. So the announcement number 21 mainly expand the UDI system to the remaining medical device and establishes the future implementation deadlines. It covers both medical devices and IVD. And the second one, the announcement number 15, addresses specific situation where the normal UDI requirement may not apply, or where a different implementation approach is allowed. This includes exemption and special requirement for reusable devices and standalone software. So these two documents regarding UDI should therefore be considered together. Starting with the first one, the most important impact of this announcement is that China is extending UDI to medical devices that were not covered by the earlier implementation batches. So from the 1st of June of next year, 2027, all remaining Class 2 medical devices, all Class 1 IVD reagents manufactured from that date must have UDI. And the second phase starts on the 1st of June of 2029, covering the remaining Class 1 medical devices. There is also an important registration requirement from the relevant implementation date. So applicant and filler should submit the product identifier of the smallest scale unit through the registration or filling system. A useful clarification is that the product identifier itself is not a registration review item, and changing only the UDI/IDI does not constitute a registration change. So before affected products are marketed, the registrant or filler must also upload UDI information for the smallest scale unit and higher package level to the Chinese UDI database. Now for the second announcement, the announcement number 15, it is important because it prevents manufacturers from applying the normal UDI requirement unnecessarily to every product and every packaging level. So for example, if a smallest scale unit package contains several disposable devices of the same model and production batch, and the package already has UDI, the individual devices may be exempt from the individual UDI. However, implantable medical devices under classification code 12XX and 13XX are excluded from this exemption. Customized medical devices may also be exempt, and transport packaging is exempt, and the products manufactured only for export do not need to follow China UDI requirement, although they must comply with the requirement of the destination market, of course. Now, for reusable devices requiring reprocessing before each use, the UDI should normally be directly marketed on the device, so it can still be identified before every use. So if direct marking could affect the safety or the effectiveness, or it is technically difficult, an alternative traceability solution can be used together with UDI on the smallest scale unit packaging. Class 1, your reusable surgical instruments have a simplified requirement. So UDI/IDI is required, but the UDI/PI is not required. And standalone, the software supplied without physical media does not require a physical UDI carrier. The UDI can instead be displayed electronically in an easily accessible location in the software. And software without a user interface may provide it through an API. That was for the second update in China. The last update in China is related to a proposal or a draft for advertising review rules. So on May of this year, the authority opened the public consultation on a proposed revision of China advertising review rules. The proposal would revise the existing interim measure and introduce a new set of administrative measures. It is important to make clear that this document is not yet a final regulation at the time of the publication, and the authority was collecting public comment until the 15th of June. There is not yet any consolidated guidelines published. So we still have waiting for the result. The proposal represents a substantial change rather than limited technical amendment. So it is an important proposal. The authority grouped the changes into three major areas. First one, as you can see, straighten advertising supervision. Second one, to facilitate compliant business activity. And the last one, to optimize the advertising review process. So the first one, in the first one, major area is stronger control, as we said. The draft proposes that advertisement for medical devices must not contain theoretical references, opinion, or other statements that go beyond the approved product instruction. So under the proposed approach, marketing team would need to maintain a stronger connection between the advertising claim and the officially approved information. The proposal also strengthens requirements concerning information that must be displayed prominently so that the consumer can clearly understand important product information. And another important development is live streaming advertising. So here the authority specifically refers to alignment with China advertising law, internet advertising management measure, and live streaming e-commerce requirement. The draft is not only adding stricter control, it is also proposing several changes intended to reduce unnecessary administrative burden for companies. So where the substantive advertising content has already been approved, company may be allowed to make certain limited presentation changes, such as adjusting the video or image aspect ratio, font, background, or product's price, provided the required conditions are met. So this is practically useful because today, relatively small changes to advertising may create a question about whether a new approval is necessary or not. So this proposal also expands situation where an advertising review application would not be required. The third area of this proposal focuses on improving the advertising review process itself by the authority. So the authority intends to approve the application procedure and clarify how advertising review application should be accepted and processed. The draft would also establish clearer rules concerning the time available for applicants to provide additional information or correct deficiency in their application. The rule concerning advertising approval numbers and the process for requesting cancellation of an existing advertising approval will also be improved. And one particularly relevant development for digital marketing is the treatment of QR codes, web links, and other links content. So this is important because the approved advertisement may contain a relatively limited amount of information, while a QR code or hyperlink direct consumer to significantly more promotional content. So the proposal specifically clarify that linked elements also need to be considered, all this QR code and the hyperlink. So they should be also considered for the framework. The second country would be Philippines, and our update is regarding the new PMS implementation guideline. So the Philippines issued administrative order number 2025-0030 on December of last year. This new administrative order specifically provide the national framework for implementing the post-market obligation contained in Annex 5 of the Asian Medical Device Directive. The order itself is dated, as I said, 26th of December of last year. But the important regulatory development is that the current EMDD 2015 Annex 5 PMS requirements are now adopted as mandatory regulatory guidelines in the Philippines, as long as they do not conflict with the national laws and the regulation, of course. So previously, this Annex 5 was an Asian-level framework that member states could adopt or supplement with national requirements. This Philippine order now makes this requirement part of the country mandatory post-market framework. So medical device marketing authorization holder are provided here 1 year transition period from the effectivity date of the order to comply. So only a few months are behind us. So the scope of the order is broad. It covers medical devices and IVD, and the application are also not limited to the legal manufacturer or the license holder. The manufacturer, traders, retailers, and distributor, including importer, exporter, wholesaler, are specifically all included. So this Annex 5 organizes the post-market system around 4 main areas. The first is traceability through importation and distribution record. The second, The second is formal complaint handling and investigation. And the third is adverse event reporting, including specific reporting criteria and timeline. And the fourth is the management and notification of fire safety corrective actions. The Philippine authority or the FDA, the Philippine authority, both the FDA Center for Device Regulation and Radiation Health and Research, is responsible for leading implementation and monitoring compliance. Another important point is that future supplements and the revision of the EMDD PMS may also be adopted where they remain consistent with the Philippine law and regulation. So company must maintain adequate importation and distribution record to allow medical devices to be traced through the market. Importantly, this requirement also covers low-risk devices, even if they are exempted from the registration. The record should make it possible to quickly identify where affected products were distributed if a recall or other safety action become necessary in that case. So relevant information may include the initial consignee, products identification, quantity imported, the distributor or distributed, etc. The guideline establishes specific record retention expectation. So importation and distribution records should be retained for whichever is longer. The projected useful life of the medical device or 2 years after shipment. Complaint handling must also be documented through a written procedure. And the process should identify responsible personnel, investigation steps, timeline, and how these corrective actions or preventive actions is determined. The company should also analyze complaints for patterns and trend rather than treating every complaint independently. The record must be kept for 5 years, and yes, it should be kept for 5 years in addition to the projected useful life of the device. So for example, a device with 1 year useful life would require complaint record to be retained for 6 years. The PMS adopts a relatively cautious approach to adverse event reporting. So the guidelines state that where there is doubt about the reportability, there should generally be predisposition to report rather than not report. And here we can see three main elements that are considered: the event occurred, the medical devices associated with the event, and the event resulted in or could result in a serious outcome. There is also a clear reporting timeline based on the seriousness of the event. So serious threat to public health should be reported within 48 hours. An event resulting in death or serious deterioration in health should be reported within 10 days, and other events where recurrence could result in death or serious deterioration should be reported within 30 days. And for the file safety corrective action, it is also required when action becomes necessary to eliminate or reduce an unacceptable safety risk associated with a medical device that is already distributed. So the file safety corrective action is more than a traditional record. It can include product modification, labeling or IFU changes, software upgrade, device exchanges, etc., etc. And finally, the order also establishes timelines for the FDA evaluation of post-market alerts, which should be distinguished from the company's own reporting deadline. So the authority has 7 working days for the initial assessment. If further information is required, the submitter may be contacted, and a comprehensive risk assessment is then expected within 20 working days, considering factors such as device type, intended use, patient population, etc. So based on this assessment, regulatory action may include oral recall or market suspension or need to change labeling or any other action defined by the authority. In Thailand, we will cover 2 different updates. The first one, also a draft, but related to reliance between Thailand and Malaysia. And the second one is the 2026 inventory rules after license expiry in Thailand. What should we do after license expiry in Thailand? This draft notification proposes to update Thailand list of foreign agency accepted by Thai FDA. So for the key change is adding Malaysia Medical Device Authority or MDA as a recognized foreign authority. But the device must be already approved or allowed for registration in Malaysia. And the device approved through an exemption from safety and performance assessment are not eligible. So the MDA approval must be based on a proper safety and performance review. So this is very important condition. The product submitted in Thailand must be the same, exactly the same as the products approved by the MDA in all aspects, in the intended use, indication, labeling, instruction for use, packaging. Otherwise, this reliance route would not be accepted. The second update in Thailand related to the license expiry and the role of that. So this notification explains what must happen when a medical device establishment registration license or notification receipt or listing receipt expires, is not renewed, or the business activity is cancelled. This notification became effective on the July of this year, and creates a clear reporting timeline for a remaining unsold stock. So it is not license not renewed, but we still have a stock, how we should behave. So the main update is that company cannot simply keep or sell remaining device without informing the authority. So when the irrelevant authorization ends or is not renewed, the holder must report how many devices remain and where they are stored. This is important for traceability and post-market control. The first obligation is the initial notification. Within 30 days after the expiry, no renewal, refused renewal, or cancellation, the responsible holder must notify the authority. The notice must identify, as I said, the remaining medical devices and where they are kept exactly. So for better traceability. This notification gives a limited period where remaining stock may still be sold. This is not an unlimited right to continue business. It is only a controlled transition period for existing stock. So after the 60 days window ends, the company should not continue selling the remaining devices. After the sale window closes, the holder must make a final report if any medical device are still on hand. This final report must, again, include the quantity and storage location. The practical message is that the company needs inventory tracking until the stock is fully sold or transferred or should be handled by the authority. So in Russia, our fourth country today, we will review two updates. The first one is related to marking, and the second one to conformity assessment. Here we will discuss the resolution number 375, which was issued by the government of the Russia on April of this year. So the resolution will enter into force 1st September of this year in a few days. This resolution does not create a completely new marking framework. So instead, it amends government resolution number 894 from May 2023. So this resolution will expand and adjust existing system. And the document is, even that is, it is particularly important because the implementation is not limited to changing the physical label. It also requires alignment of product master data, registration information, packaging structure, and electronic reporting to the Russian monitoring system. So the first important point is that the resolution expands the scope of the existing mandatory marking rules, as we said. The additional medical device category are specifically brought into the marking framework. The document identifies these products using product description together with Russian classification code, custom commodity code, and for some devices, medical device nomenclature code. The second major area is reporting to the monitoring information system. The resolution introduces new or revised information that manufacturer and other participants need to provide when registering themselves, registering products, introducing products into circulation, transferring them, or removing them from the circulation. There is also another important element is about the introduction of transition arrangement. So these documents also recognize that from the 1st of September of this year, company may already have stock manufactured or imported before the new rules became applicable. So if therefore provides specific condition under which this stock can continue to be sold without marking or can be marketed during a transitional period. So as you can see here, the resolution identifies several medical device groups that are relevant for the expanded marking requirement as listed here: air disinfection, orthopedic footwear, coronary stent, etc. And the transition provision are one of the most important part for manufacturer and distribution because there are several dates rather than one single date. The overall resolution entered into force, as we said, on the 1st of September of this year, but the document then provide like a specific mechanism for products acquired before the 31st of August of this year, but imported and released by custom from the 1st of September of this year. For the category identified in the relevant provision, these products may be marketed before they are offered for sale, with the transition operation allowed until the 30th of September of this year. There is also, the resolution also addresses products that are already present in Russia as unsold stock on the 1st of September, and that were manufactured in Russia or imported into Russia by the 31st of August of this year. For these products, the participant may, depending on the applicable products and condition, continue selling the products without identification marking until the end of their shelf life. The resolution also updates the information required from a manufacturer in the state monitoring information system. So in addition to the information already required under the existing rule, the manufacturer must provide a code indicating the reason for tax registration at the place where the activity is carried out. So this document states that this particular information is not required for individual entrepreneur. The manufacturer must also provide global unique identifier of the address of the location where the activity is performed based on the Russian Federal Address Information System. And a manufacturer already registered before the 1st of September must provide this additional information to the system by the 1st of October of this year. So this means that the existing registration in the monitoring system does not automatically mean that no further action is needed. Existing participants should verify whether the new required data is already available and correctly recorded. A very significant update is the introduction of detailed information requirements for registration of the newly covered products in the National Catalog of Market Goods. As you can see here, the list of requirements, products and applicant identification, medical device registration certificates, product model, etc. And finally, the resolution also introduced several important clarifications concerning packaging and identification codes. So the updated rule distinguish between the consumer package, group package, sets and transport packaging, and they clarify how identification information is associated with this different level. They also describe the structure of the marking code using GS1 data matrix symbology. So the identification means contains marking code consisting of 4 groups of data identified through the GS1 application identifier. And another practical update relates to the print quality. Also, the identification mark, when applied, must meet at least the specified quality class and comply with the Russian standard references in this resolution. The conformity assessment update. Here it was published in the order number 424, and it covered technical testing, toxicology studies, clinical trial, and this procedure is linked to state registration of medical devices, and it replaced the previous one that was published in 2021. It is become effective on September also of this year and valid until 2032. So the main update is that Russia now has a new formal procedure for how conformity assessment must be performed before or during state registration. For manufacturer and regulatory teams, this means the evidence package must follow this procedure. The document explains who performs the testing, what documents are needed, how results are issued, and when results can be considered negative. The document canceled the previous procedure, as I said, from 2021. However, it also gives the transition rules. If the manufacturer or authorized representative already submitted document to a testing laboratory or medical device medical organization before the new procedure enter into force, and the assessments can continue under the previous requirement. This is important for any ongoing project. And for non-IVD medical devices, technical testing starts when the applicant or the authorized representative submits an application and required document to the testing organization. So the organization checks if it has the accreditation and technical capability to perform the work. If accepted, it prepares a testing program and contract. The testing is normally performed within 30 working days after the product and documents are received and payment is made. So the document gives a separate process for in vitro diagnostic medical devices also. We'll go a little bit faster. And toxicological studies are required for devices, accessory or material that comes into contact with the human body when the contact is needed for the device function. For medical devices, clinical assessment may be done by analysis of clinical data or by clinical trials involving humans. For IVD, the document introduces clinical laboratory testing. This testing is performed using biological sample or clinical material. Depending on the IVD type, this may include patient sample, residual sample, archive sample, biobank material, or reference collection. So the purpose is to confirm analytical sensitivity and the diagnostic characteristic, quality, and safety. Moving to UK. Here we have only one update, but it's an important update related to pre-market medical device reform. So this document is a draft called Medical Device Amendment Regulation 2026. It has not been presented as the final regulation. It is, as I said, a draft. The authority published the proposed draft for medical devices and IVD both. The general rule is that the regulation will come into force 6 months after it is made, while Part 10, which relates to the international reliance pathway, will come into force after 18 months. So the main purpose is to modernize the pre-market regulatory framework in UK. The authority says the draft requirements are intended to be patient-centered and proportionate. In practical terms, the UK wants to improve patient safety and keep access to innovative medical devices. So for a manufacturer, this means the UK file will become more structured and more data-driven, especially around UDI, technical documentation, claim, the classification on RVD, and other information. And one of the most important updates is the creation of an international reliance pathway. This means that some devices already approved or authorized in Australia, Canada, or USA may use that statute to support access to the UK market. But this is not an automatic approval. The draft refers to application for a certificate of international reliance, including evidence of authorization in the comparable regulatory country, device classification, intended purpose, etc. So this could reduce the duplication, but still need to prepare a strong UK-facing package. The draft makes unique device identifier requirement a major part of placing devices in UK. And this is a very practical update for manufacturer. The draft requires manufacturer to maintain technical documentation in a way that allows conformity to be assessed. Document must be readable in English, search up to date, etc. And the retention from 15 years for implantable devices, 10 years for other devices. The authority summary explained that healthcare organization implanting devices will be required to give patient implant card. The idea is that patients should have clear information about the device, and that was implanted under. The draft proposes to align IVD classification with international medical device regulatory requirement. So this is a major point that because the classification affects regulatory routes and everything. And there is introduction also of the concept of a predetermined change control plan, or known as PCCP, for software. It is important because software devices can change frequently, so there is a plan here and more detailed requirements. And finally, the draft straighten control around claims. So manufacturer must make sure that claims about the device are aligned with the device intended purpose. This is not only for IFU or labels, but also for packaging, for promotional material, and for sale material. Last country, briefly, USA. This is regarding the fees. So we have this, here we analyze the two Federal Register notices from 2026 and 2027. The main update is that FDA medical devices user fee increase in 2027. Most submission fee move up because they are calculated as percentage of the standard pre-market application fee. So, but the biggest practical change is the establishment registration fee. We'll see. So as you can see, it goes jump from 11,004 to 3 to 13,785. So the key planning point is the fiscal year boundary. Submission planned near the end of September can move into a new fee year if FDA receives on or after the October 1st. So should be prepared to check the correct fee before creating this cover sheet or making payment. That's it for today. Thank you. And any question, please? We still have like 1 minute. If you have any question.
Hi, man.
Hello? I
Can you
cannot
hear
hear
me?
you. Now, yes.
Now, yes. Okay. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about China.
Yes.
Can products manufactured before China's UEDI implementation date continue without UEDI?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. About China, their implementation date?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Can products manufactured before China UEDI implementation date continue without UEDI?
Yes. The products manufactured before the implementation date may continue without UDI, and they should include the UDI in the moment of renewal or amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and hope to see you all together and our next meeting for September 2026. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Iman.